Any questions?
Can you explain the difference between the religions, just a small way, between the husband and wife, and what are the differences that would cause conflict between them?
Actually, I think Sikhs and Hindus do, I think, marry. They do marry quite often, though probably neither family really wants it, I think. Sikhism is a newer religion, but its basic tenets come out of Hinduism as well, so there are similarities, except there is only one God if you're a Sikh, as opposed to, well, in Hinduism there's thousands and thousands, and they all have these wonderful aspects of humanity. It's really quite a rich religion. I think the bigger issue is that she is of the Brahmin caste, so she's of the very, very highest caste, and so it would be expected for her to marry into that caste as well, but instead she falls in love with the Sikh.
I have a question, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago there was a great controversy over appropriation of voice. Now, are you
Mm-hmm.
East Indian, or have you, what's been the reaction? Because
Yeah, well, the book's only out, so I haven't had a reaction yet. And that was certainly an issue when I started the book. I struggled with it because I thought, can I tell this story? Do I have a right to tell this story? Are there really rules for writers or not? So I just decided to put that idea aside and thought the goal or the purpose would be to tell the story honestly from the character's point of view, but also from a factual point of view and historical point of view. And the book was read by a Sikh Punjabi writer in the fall, and I had him go through it, and he gave me comments on, and he's in completely full support of it. This morning I got an email from a radio talk show host who's Punjabi in Vancouver. He wants to interview me and do a review, so that will now start to come, and we will see. And I don't know. Yeah.
The style of how you've written this book, was that by design, or did that fall into play? Did it just fall that way?
It just fell.
It's quite different.
Yeah. It's verse novels are actually quite big in Australia and the States. There are lots of them. In Canada, I think there's 5 that I've been able to find.
You're number 5.
I'm number 5, I think. So, I mean, there are verse novels that are done with strict poetic forms. This one is not. This is, I would call it more verse than poetry, but some of it is very prose poetry, definitely, and some of it is much more poetic, where the poem could probably stand on its own as a poem. But and it's a mixed bag all the way through. There's not one style. You'll see on every page as you turn it, some are short, some are long, some go over a few pages, some have conversations back and forth. It's just, when I wrote it, I let it go, and I didn't show it to anybody, which is highly unusual for writers, because normally we really need to have some support behind us. But with this one, I just thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I should be doing it. And I was really, really afraid to stop the process, so I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and then gave it to my agent, and he said, well, he liked it, but he didn't know if anyone else would like it. And then we actually, he said, do you want to try and sell it? And I had only about half the book done at that point, probably. I said, yeah, sure, why not, right? And then we sold it, and then I had to finish it. So, for me, it was probably good, because Lost took 8 years to write, and this is 3, so do better. Yeah.
Do you read to yourself because it's verse, just to get to see the rhythm?
I read out loud all the time, and that's how I edit, because I'm looking for beats and rhythms. But then, unfortunately, I tend to over-edit, as Roberta knows where Roberta is in the house. She knows. There you are. Roberta knows how much I over-edit. And the problem with it is that one day you read it and you hear the beats, so you start slicing things, and the next day you read it and you realize you're missing them. So unfortunately, a lot of it is just kind of mood you're in that day too. So, but yes, I read all of my work out loud.
I just want to say it was beautiful to hear you read it, and I can't wait to read it. It's gorgeous.
Great. Oh, and Kathy, are you expecting equal boy girl? What age? What gender? Like, what are you kind of thinking? I'm just thinking with the pink cover, I hope you're not kind of excluding a boy group or what.
I don't know how many boys read anyway. I suspect their mothers buy their books for them, so the mothers might like the pink, but I don't need to do that for them. But when I wrote the book, the idea was to write a young adult novel because I naively believed it would be much easier to do. I thought, oh, they're just like little adults, and they don't need as many words, and they just need more narrative drive and less theme, you know, and we're home free. And then I realized, in fact, it was much harder because I believe the young adult or the young reader is forming their, not just who they are and what they think about the world and themselves, but the politics of the world and history of the world. It's really an enormous responsibility, and that's when I really freaked out. More than worrying about appropriation of voice, I think I was freaking out, like, oh, what am I saying? If a person reads, if a young person reads this, what am I saying? You know, am I being as honest as I possibly can in the book? Because I think young readers will sniff it out if you are dishonest in some way, emotionally dishonest, I guess I'm saying. So. I didn't choose the cover. Penguin chose the cover, but I really love it. So
It's beautiful.
the story is narrated by Maya, but the middle section is actually a series of 3 diaries. The first one is Maya, and the middle one is Sandeep, and he's a boy, a 17-year-old boy, and I like him. I think boys might like him. Maybe. So I don't know. You know, I don't know. I think even Penguin doesn't really know where this book's going to go. It's as far as I'm concerned, they call it 12 and up for young adult, and I have had a 12-year-old who has reviewed it, but I think it's for much older. You know, for a sophisticated young adult reader, and I would actually really hope this book crosses over into adult books as well. But it's just really different.
Yeah, it's great.
Enough? No? Oh, yeah.
There's a few dangling threads at the end. Are you anticipating a sequel at all?
The teacher in the crowd. Well, there's a character in the book who he's in the second half, and when I was working on it, he ran away with the story in a big way, and I loved him. And I just gave him as much room because I just loved him, and the editors just slashed him, and they just said he's taking over the book, and I was going, yeah, it'll be so great. I said no. So he's still in the book, and you'll see him. And I have thought that I think he wants his own book. So. Yeah, so there may be a sequel, and probably I would want it to do it in verse, but I'm thinking of a different kind of verse, a poetry form called the ghazal, which is, or ghazal, right? I think that's how it's pronounced. The ghazal, like you down here. Yeah. And it's a form of verse that is sung, actually. And I don't know if I can do it in English because it actually has to do with the stress of the syllables, and I don't think I can actually do a real one, but I'm thinking of it. I've started it, and then I kind of backed off a bit, so we'll see.
And thank you again to everybody for coming. Now I know you all want to go home and start reading the book. That is not what we want you to do. You've got to save it. Tantalizing. Because everyone's invited 2 doors up to Rasoi Restaurant for a reception and more chance to chat and have an enjoyable afternoon. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you. Please come next Friday. And thanks to Sue and Monkey Shines for doing this.
Oh, it's indeed a pleasure.
For us, I'm so happy to be able to do it in my neighborhood, my community. It was just it's just so great to live here and be able to launch the book here and with the local restaurants. And I'm just so appreciative. Thanks.